all these positive things we've been saying about Saints, all, the whole podcast are the one potential problem, because when it's all it doesn't count for anything in a final.
26 years since Bath won the league is utterly astonishing.
We know what Finn Russell is, but he's really been the connecting piece between the forward pack and the backs to make them all tick.
The Bath back row is basically an international back row or potential. You got, I think Ted Hill's phenomenal
I thought
athlete.
he played really well. I didn't mention him.
Is he knocking on England's door?
I'm surprised he's not playing regularly for England, other than the fact that the back row is always so hotly contested.
I reckon Saints are going to win well. I just got a feeling now.
Oh, that makes me nervous.
Sorry.
John, you seem to place your coffee on my chair.
You're upset about that?
I'd say that's been slightly...
more of a
I
risk.
can see what's going to happen, which is it's going to be hot beverage in groin.
It would go viral, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the content that Conti are looking for. The Conti content.
Like it.
Hello, Dream Team. Welcome along to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby in partnership with our very good friends at Continental Tyres. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a good week. This weekend, as you know, Twickenham will be buzzing. It is going to be all eyes on southwest London as two of England's oldest clubs prepare to face off. Two with enormous sets of supporters. Saints against Bath will be a full house. And amazingly, it's the first sellout at HQ for a Premiership final since 2015. The good times, they are back. Joining us at GBR HQ for a preview of the Gallagher Premiership final, we have one Mike Tyndall, who reached the final back in 2004 with Bath.
Hello.
We have one Tom Wood, who won with Northampton in 2014.
Hello.
And we're very relieved to have one Jonny May, who got on the train this morning heading to Cardiff, despite the fact that we're recording in London. How are you, John?
I'm good. Not a good start to the day.
Do you want to just share with everybody how your day has gone so far?
Yeah, maybe there's some of our viewers have had the same issue, because I got on the 8:26 train at Cheltenham Spa, platform 1, because that was the train that was meant to be going to Paddington. And then it stopped at Gloucester, which is normal, isn't it? The first stop, is that right? The first stop is Gloucester. And then the second stop, it was going, and then I looked up and it was just saying Chepstow, Newport, Cardiff. And at that point I realised I wasn't going to Paddington. So then I was like flapping on my phone, and it seemed the best option was to stop off at Newport and then get the train to Paddington from there.
You're looking for a new club.
Newport.
Did you pop in and did you have a word with the Dragons?
Newport.
Yeah.
Newport.
Chepstow, Newport, Cardiff. That's the train.
Did you
that
not
went
go to
Gloucester.
Bristol?
He might have slept through Bristol.
Maybe we stopped it. I think I was actually just clicked now, because it wasn't. I think I had one stop on my train. So
you were supposed to get off at Bristol, and you were supposed to get on the one
Were you meant
direct
to change
to
it,
London.
Brit? You just missed the change.
It was an indirect train.
Every day's a school day. What's wonderful for our viewers and listeners is what we're seeing in real time is what it takes to step out of the incubation of rugby, professional rugby, and into the real world. Trains, 4 out of 10.
I hate them.
Yeah, fire brigade, 8 out of 10. Every day's a school day.
I feel that I need to be on your travel plan list.
I
so you can just
flipping
ring
hate
me.
getting a train on my own. Things I hate about train. There's like an anxiety about being late for a train that everybody has. There's often delays with trains. There's often strikes with trains, and they're really expensive.
Yeah.
They're not great. I don't really like them.
I actually know what you mean. I got the train down to Bodmin Parkway last week, and I'm relatively good at travel, but I do agree with you that you are sitting on the train and it says this train is going to Bodmin Parkway, and you're still thinking, is this train actually going to Bodmin Parkway, or am I not really concentrating at the key moments?
Have I not noticed that it's one change train? And
often on the tube, they will say...
I'm not going anywhere near the tube.
The tube, they will say, Uxbridge 1 minute, and the train will pull in, and you'll get on, and it'll go, this train is actually going to Richmond. Yeah. And so that does
what
play
about
with
the screeching that goes on in the train
I can
whilst
deal
you're
with that.
on the tube?
No, I can deal
like
with
something from Lord of the Bloody Rings.
Right. You need those like but you need those. You need pink
You're
ear
having a
defenders.
nice chat, and then within and everybody
the lights go out.
Everybody just pretends it's normal. The lights flickering, and you just.
I think we can draw
It's
Harlequins and
hellish.
Saracens out of the clubs that you might be going to at this rate.
It's
London
hellish.
travel. Yeah, it is. It is. But welcome to the real world, John.
Yeah.
Are we getting you a taxi back to
Back
Cheltenham
to Paddington,
this
and then I'll
afternoon?
get the train from Paddington to Cheltenham.
Good. Well, it's lovely. / it's surprising to have you with us today, but we're delighted.
Thanks for having me.
How are you? You were at the Northampton game, weren't you? How was
Yeah, I
live?
was, yeah.
How was live first? Because you were down in Cornwall. You're wearing your branding.
Yeah,
Waller
don't
and
miss
Wood.
an, I was, Hask would understand.
good
don't
opportunity.
miss an opportunity to get on brand. That's Waller and Wood. If you can't read it from over there, that's
Wallerandwood.com.
Yeah, we've got
For all
website,
your
Instagram.
tree felling needs.
No, it's actually bespoke furniture. That is.
Ah.
Yeah, custom furniture. That's myself and Alex. I'm the tree surgeon. Obviously, Alex retiring. Don't think he'll be climbing trees anytime soon, Alex. But he might be a good ground anchor.
Tree, wouldn't it?
Good ground anchor or like rope holder or something like that. We'll see. But myself and Alex do the furniture making.
Good.
Find us online, website, Instagram, all the rest of it.
Happy days. And you were watching him on Friday at Frankenscons. Just a word on...
Yeah, it's been a big couple of weeks for those guys. Courtney, Lewis, both Waller boys. Paul Hill's moving on as well. Alex Moon. So it's a bit of not an exodus, but a lot of experience leaving the Saints camp. It's emotional end to the season. Guys have been there for a long time. They've had the final send off, which was the Gloucester day. Heavy defeat for Gloucester.
A nice day for them, wasn't
it? Yeah. I mean, it was great. It was good of them from a Saints perspective to roll over and let everyone celebrate like that, because it must have been a good lap of honour and a good feel-good factor that day. That was their formal opportunity to sort of say goodbye.
Yep.
Got on the pitch afterwards and had a good send-off. Then obviously they sent the bin juice down to Bath and things didn't go so well. I was worried for Saints semi-final wise because Gloucester, Bath, week off, feels like 3 weeks without a proper game.
Yeah.
And then they obviously go into semi-final. But yeah, I was there. I was on my way back from Newquay. 8 hours in the car with the missus, 3 kids and 2 dogs. Wasn't the best. It's due to be in corporate
You were probably
hospitality.
ready to play when you arrived at Frankenscons on the back of that, weren't you?
Feeling fresh, yeah. I was due to be in hospitality. I was kindly invited down there. Dylan Hartley, Luther Burrow, Stephen Myler, and some of the old gang were there watching the game. Nice little invite from the class of 2014. Didn't make it until kick-off, literally ran in the door up to the box and the first ball was kicked. So I didn't miss any of the rugby, but I did miss all the schmoozing pre-match.
And when you guys get back together 10 years on, you're looking very well on it, but one or two perhaps are creaking a bit more at the seams. Does it feel like a special gang getting back together, or was there so much water under the bridge?
It's literally 10 years. So we had a bit of a reunion earlier in the year, a bit of a get together and a dinner, and most of the gang made it. It's really difficult logistically. Sammy Manoa's back in the States, Khan Fotualihi back in New Zealand, but the PC boys, George and Ken, made it over. Jimmy Wilson made it back over. So, we did have a good get together. George North didn't make it back because he was in Welsh camp. But yeah, a fair few of the guys got back together and we had a few drinks and we had a lock-in at Celessi Matthews pub till the early hours of the morning. And then I think I ran home in my suit and shoes at 3 a.m. or whatever. But.
Of course you did.
But what do you look at this on that team? Obviously, what a performance Friday. Does it frustrate you that the boys are now where they are, which I think they've played the best rugby this year? I think they deserve to be top. But then you've got so many people are leaving at the end of it. Do you think that'll disrupt the momentum that they've got, or do you think what they've got in the young guys? I mean, that back line, is I think a thing of future dreams. Do you think it's going to continue on this growth pattern, or are you going, well, Courtney is just getting better as Dow said, is just getting better at the moment? Are you going to miss those people? It was great to see Waller get that standing ovation on his way off at his last game at Franklin Garden. Are they going to miss those guys, or do you think they've put in the building blocks for the future with this young team they've got?
I do think it's impossible to replace the likes of Courtney and Alex. They are all-time sort of greats and legends of the club and the Premiership. But I do think with Dawson and Vesti at the helm, the sort of processes and protocols they've got, the people they've got there now, and the youth in that back line in particular, they are set up for a big sort of 5-6 years, however long it might last, if they can keep that group together. You look at Mitchell, Finn. I think Finn Smith has been phenomenal. I got to be honest, when his name was announced as replacing Dan Big, I didn't really know much about Finn, and I thought, man, there's some big shoes to fill. But then you look at that as a piece of business and how it's worked out for the club's been couldn't have been any better. I think he's such experience on young shoulders. So then you got Dingwall. I thought Odendar was awesome. He hasn't been fit much of this year. He's missed a lot of rugby through injury, but man, he looked strong at the weekend. Tommy Freeman, Furbank, Slightholme. There's loads of options there. Hutchinson when he gets back fully fit and playing some rugby again.
Do you think, so your question is very interesting about the future. Is there any danger of the emotion of big characters leaving getting in the way of preparations for the Gallagher Premiership final itself? Or is that quite easy to compartmentalise?
I like to think most of that talking's been done, and Courtney and Alex, they're smart operators, and so's Dawson. They know that they've had their chance. The Gloucester week was the time to do that and to celebrate and to let people sort of soak up what are going to be the last sort of weeks of being at Northampton and Premiership rugby. But they'll be firmly business and eyes on the prize now.
I think you got that from when we spoke to Ben Earl last week. I think it still carries on. Whoever won that is going to be playing for those guys leaving, those legends. I think it gives you a real focal point as a team as well, not just the prize that's at the end of it, but to send the guys off in the right. And you could see there were two teams who were fighting to have send their guys off in the best way. I thought Owen's interview afterwards was amazing. I think it's the most he spoke ever to the media about how much he's enjoyed his career, how much he's enjoyed his time at Saracens, how much he enjoyed the fact that actually Northampton fans were cheering his name because they knew that was the last time they was going to see it.
So everyone was on their feet on his lap of honour. Yeah. He did a gracious lap and took the applause, and everyone was on their feet.
And I think both those two, and you could see it with the quality of the game. I mean, that game was so intense, so physical. It was like you were playing for more than just the win at the end of it. I think both teams were playing for, the legacy of some players within that, and it just fell Northampton's way.
To dive into Northampton in more detail, where and why have they made such a significant improvement this season?
I'd say defence is the improvement. I mean, they have been. I think Sam Vesti's been there a good few years now, and that attack has taken time to sort of really bed in. But there's been real consistency with that. I think the attacking flair and talent they've got in that group. They look absolutely lethal with the ball in hand when they get the ball moving and the offloads start sticking. Their patterns of play and their organisation, but that's been sort of ever present for 2 or 3 years now. Probably started with Chris Boyd, Vesti, and has continued on. It's Radders coming in.
Tell me about the Lee Radford that you don't know, or what you've heard.
I've not worked
with
him personally, but I've not heard a bad word said. I'm obviously still close to Courtney and Alex and the boys, and they all speak so highly of him. I think it's just a real simple mindset. It always helps when you've got a northern accent. I find defence coach.
You always sound a little bit more aggressive when you say it.
Tougher. It sounds tougher. It sounds a bit more blunt, and just a northern accent just sets the tone for defence, I find. So from what I hear, he just focuses massively on the connection, the guys either side of you, making sure you're connected to the guys. And, that changes radically. If I've got Jonny outside me, it's me working to keep up with Jonny. It's Jonny probably looking after me a little bit, space-wise, not leaving me exposed. If I've got a prop or somebody on the inside, I need to look after him a bit more. So, managing the space either side of you and staying connected. And he just fills the boys with confidence, I think. And, last couple of seasons, it felt like we'd probably score 30 or 40 points, but we'd be in danger of conceding 30 or 40 as well. Whereas at the moment, we look like we're a lot more solid. Although we did actually concede a couple of soft ones to Sarries, I felt. I mean, do you want to give Sarries credit for scoring? But at the same time, I feel like our Northampton boys will be a bit frustrated with a few of them.
You mentioned the story that his first team meeting with the Saints had an interesting angle to it.
The story somewhat goes. One of his first meetings, he's got the CCTV footage of his own house as he interrupts burglars breaking in, and he's in his pants fighting people off the.
Does he stay connected with his wife as he's sort of running defence?
Yeah. He's got zonal defence. He's connected, and I think he's just filled two blokes on their way up the drive or breaking into his house. I don't want to give too many details away. I'm not sure exactly what. I don't want to butcher the story.
We'll try and get
the footage.
If you want to win the boys over, a lot of it isn't
fighting in your pants.
Very Sean Edwards.
When you come into a first meeting
he had white shoes on them.
You've got to set the tone for your defensive mantra for the year, and you can come in with all the technical playbooks and bodyguard systems you like. Everyone's heard it all before. If you've got a video of you just fighting off burglars in your pants that sets a tone.
You can imagine, we defend this house. Look, this is how we defend this house.
Run blitz through the kitchen.
Yeah.
And Phil Dawson, because you mentioned Chris Boyd, and I can remember from a personal perspective, when Chris left and Phil took over, it sort of felt a little bit like it was at a point where the Premiership itself was under real pressure, and it felt a little bit like, let's give the keys almost to the kid because we have to type thing. But the growth in him and the way that he's running the club now, did you know that was in there when he was a teammate of yours. Have you been surprised? Have you been delighted? Is he enjoying it all?
Yeah, just on that side, I think I'll give the club and Dawson Boydie a bit more credit than that. I think it was a planned succession. I think one of the big things that they said to Chris Boyd when he came in is it's great to bring in a Southern Hemisphere, some experience, an older, wiser head that's been there and done it. But we actually want to develop a young English coaching staff that can eventually, take over the mantle from Chris. So I think Chris ended up staying a year or two longer than he initially planned. But the plan was always to try and transition someone like Daniels into that position.
Is Phil enjoying it? Is that a thing?
Oh, I think he is at the minute.
Yeah.
I think he is at the minute. I think there's probably times when it's a lot tougher, and the pressure will come on again. Like if we win it, everybody will be absolutely all over it. And if you lose, people quickly forget that the season you had and the final stuff. So, unfortunately, it all comes down to getting the result this week. I thought Dawes had it in him as a coach. I always thought he spoke unbelievably well. He was like a coach at times, but he had a lot of personality with it. Took the game very seriously. Always like making notes and spoke well in huddles. Organised. He would organise a lot of the unofficial sort of team meetings and the fun stuff around the group as well.
Yeah.
Proper leader. Between him and Dylan, we had a lot of character within that team.
I'm just going to read the quote from, I'm sure many of you will have seen the Premiership documentary that was out on Amazon Prime, I think it was. And this was Phil Dawson before last year's semi-final. He said, all of these players here have come through the academy, homegrown. It's absolutely integral to cohesion. Players growing up together, playing code together, going through life together. That's fucking powerful, lads. People don't have a clue. They go, Northampton are okay, but they don't know the frustration that sits in this room. The fucking endless work we've put in. They don't know that because they haven't seen it. We want to go beyond, do more. And that's our narrative. And it obviously sounds far better when he says it than when I do. But that sort of homegrown connection, and you talk about the young English coaches, how important is that for the way that the people of Northampton have bought into the team? I mean, you were there on front. Do you feel a stronger connection almost, not than ever, but certainly than in recent years between club, players and town? Was it always been as?
I think the connection with the town has always been there. It's obviously when the team stalls, it's frustrating. Everyone gets fans, players, coaches alike, and that's when it can quickly become like an us and them between players and coaches, or an us and them between the team and the fans. You got it. You foster that sort of that connection, and you build that through performance. And when the fans come and they see you running the ball the way Northampton have, the tries, the buy-in. The Saints lads are brilliant in the community as well. The Saints Foundation is absolutely thriving, which is the charitable arm of the club, and the boys are buying into that as ambassadors and as role models and things like that. They gather momentum. It feels like a rugby town rather than a football town, or it feels like everything revolves around that stadium and Northampton Saints.
You've played against Northampton a fair amount. When you are playing against this team, what are you thinking? What is your preparation? What are Bath going up against this weekend?
It's very tough to pick a point on which to focus your attention, because they're a threat both sides of the ruck with great backs, and then there's Mitch as well.
How good was he?
He's very very good, isn't he? I mean, there's not many teams that have that sort of threat around the base. And like I said, where do you focus your attention? Because they've got deadly back three, Finn taking the ball to the line with options at the line, and then Mitch at the base of the ruck as well, just causing nightmares, picking people off, forwards running onto the ball, offloading, big ball carrying forwards, offload game. They've been the toughest team to play against this season, and the best team with the ball in hand. And like Woody says, their defence is pretty decent now as well. So it's really interesting listening to Woody there, because it just sounds that everything's going pretty well there, doesn't it? It sounds like everything's been purposefully thought through. Everything's aligning from the coaches to the players to the community. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds like everything is in a good spot, really, and that probably reflects why they're playing so well.
What do you like, and where would your concerns be for them this weekend?
I think any other team would. Well, I think Saracens would have beaten the other two teams who played in the other semi-final on how they played on the weekend. They'll kick themselves for that first 30 minutes where they sort of made a lot of efforts, gave away a lot of penalties.
The penalties.
Penalties was mad, but I think Northampton grew even more. I love the way their attack's set up. Finn Smith gets that free range to sort of float behind, and whoever is on, and they normally have two who float. Then the second man behind becomes the guy who runs out the back. They did that once to make a breakthrough. And when you've got the likes of Furbank and Freeman,
Furbs is smart.
They've just got clever players. Plus you've got Ondai who can just smash the door open for you as well. Him off the old 9-12 off the back of a line out. He'd take that all day long. But then, as you said, as spoke about the defensive hits, Augustus at 8 has been incredible. I mean, he's physical, he's fast, he's a proper athlete. He's the equivalent of Ben Earl, and they managed to keep Ben Earl quiet, which is hard. How powerful he is. They clearly recognise that and pinned him down. And then I just think they've got that all-round game, and they've got the balance where they love it. Their offloading ability, which I think separates teams at the moment. You have to be able to offload now to keep the ball off to disrupt defences, and they do that exceptionally well. And they ID those spots where they need to do it, and they trust them to leave those offloads out there. So, and then when you've got Mitchell, I've spoke before about how I think 9 is the most pivotal role on the field now to dictate. If they're going to shoot out and you've got a 9 who can pick, stop, pick, and then you've got runners off him, it creates all sorts of problems for your first and second defenders. And then if you can be smart with your runners, you can open up or you can dummy and go yourself. I think he made 3 line breaks on the weekend.
Brilliant offload to open it up for Fraser as well.
Yeah.
So should have scored that, by the way. I'd give him some stick about that.
What a hell of a cover tackle, though.
Yeah.
That was like your
get the ball in the left hand.
Outside hand would have helped.
But you've got
if he'd not scored with the ball in the outside hand, he'd have less regret.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Is that the
Gonzalez
Great tackle, unbelievable.
What a tackle.
To get back there, wheels of. I mean, that was impressive. You have to give that.
Yeah.
But that was it. It was those games and moments where actually Northampton probably could have scored a couple more. But I think they're in a really good spot, and I'm sort of really excited to see where they can take it to. Again, with what we talked about last week on the show is being able to keep that group together, because at some point they'll all want getting paid what they're due, and then your wage bill become.
That is the danger with the academy sort of graduation. That is the problem. Is for a period of time you've obviously got undervalued players. You've got players that have got huge potential and potentially going to play for England, but you're not paying them international wages yet.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they all come of age and they expect that money. And
you expect it on the right side of it,
and
they deserve it.
Yeah, I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but what you think you've got is like affordable homegrown talent that suddenly becomes international or regular Premiership, and their salaries have got to reflect that, and something you got to find a way of paying for it. You'd still hope it would be cheaper than bringing in a Southern Hemisphere player from.
But that's going to be the thing that you're going to figure out. I look at that Northampton team now, and you can see a lot of those played for England for a long time. But how are you going to then keep them together? Then it becomes an England problem. Yeah. Because you surely want them staying in that team where they're comfortable and they're playing well, and they've got those partnerships that are going to support England. But you've got to then manage that. It goes back to what we were saying. It's not, something's got to change, or it's not going to be manageable, where they'll have to go and get paid whatever they can get paid.
Can we just have a sort of almost a timeout for a Courtney Lawes? I know you've mentioned him already, but it was interesting. You mentioned the fact that it feels like Northampton have got everything where they want it right now, and there are moments in sport where it just happens for the good guys, so to speak. But just a word on his impact for Saints over the. I mean, when was his debut?
More than 15 years.
Did he play for Northampton when they were in the Championship?
Yes.
Was it
I think he did.
Year?
No, I think he did.
Was that his first year?
Yeah. I mean, we can clarify that.
So would that have been 2007, something like that?
But just the journey that he's been on, not just as a Saint, but as almost a player and a man, really. Because when he came on the scene, he was rough, raw, just sort of all over the place, wasn't he? Just
went to murder people.
Yeah,
Courtney didn't even arrive at rugby until sort of late teenager. He's not someone that sort of followed his dad's footsteps to play rugby at under sixes or whatever at the local club. He came when he went to NSB school in Northampton Town Centre, Northampton School for Boys. And I think I'll be right in saying about year 9, year 10 or something, he got into rugby properly. So massively steep learning curve, obviously a raw potential as an athlete, big physical specimen, rangy geezer, had a natural sort of physicality about him, but didn't have a clue what the rules were, didn't know what a ruck was or all the rest of it. So he had to learn quickly. And I actually remember watching Courtney, I don't know if he knows this, but I was playing at Worcester and he played an academy game against my brother. and my brother's a couple of years younger. And I remember watching, and they were all talking about, you know, what potential he had. And I was watching him thinking, he looks pretty clumsy to me. He doesn't really look like he knows what he's doing. Like, where I didn't see other than just the raw size of the man, I didn't see the potential that they were talking about at the time. And obviously, it was only a couple of years later that I'm playing with him or against him at Premiership level. I think, oh, he's grown up pretty quick. Like, because all of a sudden, I've been playing rugby since I was 6 or 7 years old and knew the game inside out. You know, I loved all the detail and the nuance and the breakdown stuff, and he just looked like he was wandering around hoping to get a carry in now and then or hit something, but he didn't have a clue about, you know, patterns of play and defensive alignment and things. So to see how far he'd come in that short space of time, and then he continued that kind of rate of development through his whole career. He's I put him down as one of the best players I've ever played with or against, because I genuinely do. I think he's world class, and I often get asked, like, who's the best player you've played with? And I think they want me to say someone more exotic, like someone from further afield. It seems, you know, a bigger deal to say someone from the Southern Hemisphere maybe or something like that. But Courtney had a YouTube highlights reel like within a year of playing professional rugby, didn't he? He'd smashed about 10 people, YouTube highlight reel sort of worthy clips. But he's gone from being just a hitter and an athlete to being a ball carrier and an offloader with footwork and a leader.
And now the breakdown.
Yeah, and yeah, he's one of the best in the world, and he's you know, not traditionally the way you think of a jackal threat. He's not built for it. You know, he's 6'7", 6'8", but he gets like long levers. He gets his arms through the ruck. He gets his feet like splayed wide. He's a nightmare to shift, and he wins more turnovers than anybody. And you wouldn't say he was, you know, leverage-wise and everything else, and centre of gravity-wise, that would be his forte. But he's obviously put that in his game, his ball carrying. He was always going to be a good line-out forward. So he's virtually the complete package now.
Yeah. And when you played alongside him for England, you always talk about players who you look at in the change room and you think, cool, we're ready. Was he one of those who, before the referee's knock, you were like, very glad he's on my team?
Yeah, he's just always ready. Like, he's so laid back. And just such a decent guy. So yeah, you just know he's gonna. You don't need to worry about Courtney. He rocks up to training a couple minutes before, and he's ready to train. He gets on with his bits, and he always shows up at game time. He speaks incredibly well. He leads by example. For me, like, it's the injuries he's had. That's what's so many injuries. I think back to before Steve took over from Eddie, which was like beginning of last year, and we all met up at a mini camp, and he'd been in struggle with his concussion for a while, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And then like a COVID camp with Eddie, like we're doing down ups, he snapped his pec, like he's had ankle, knee.
In the early days, like
just
probably
like
mid to late
shoulders.
20s, both his knees were taped to the ankles. You know, shoulders hanging off because of the way he's tackled all of his career. I probably worried about him around late 20s, thinking, you know what, like he's had a hell of a shift. I don't think nutritionally he can sustain this much longer. Like he's, you know, you're probably going to fade out in the next year or two, but he's got better in that time. Since then, he's, you know, improved no end.
And you got to look up to that, like somebody who is that bulletproof mentally. Do you know what I mean?
Well, one of the things he's also added massively is, which is different to any other player I've really known, is he just does things his way all week. Like he's not somebody that's trying to train the house down on a Tuesday. His way he manages his body, looks after himself, and like he doesn't always eat what the rest of the team eat, like nutrition wise, like what the chef's putting on and things. He'll have a poke his head around, have a look, and that's not for me, and just go and sort himself out. But you know, it works for him. Whatever it is, it works for him.
Grown up in the game.
Yeah, he's not trying to out-train everybody on a Monday and a Tuesday. And there are times, like early in his career, where you're thinking, is he ready? Like you do a double take and you think, like, is he going to be with us on Saturday? Because he rolls into team run, captain's run the day before, and he's doing his laces up 30 seconds before, you know, we're due to train. Everyone else is on the old Lombardi time, 15 minutes early, stretching and bouncing around and ready to go. He just rolls in so casual at last minute, and you are questioning, like, is he on it for Saturday? And not once did he ever let you down, has he? He's always been there. So
he is. I think he's basically everything we want in rugby. I think, you know, going back to when he was on that tour in Australia, which was in 2010, and he just, you know, didn't say anything. Yeah, and I think through his career, he sort of operated in the shadows. Obviously, makes the hits that he makes, but then as he's gone through the year, he spoke more and more. He's taken in everything that he's seen in the past, and then he's able to verbalise it. I thought his interview after the game on Saturday, and they were talking about Faz and friendship and everything. He's like, yeah, it's friendship. And then they were like, well, does that come into preparation? He's like, no. As soon as I get here, it's about competition. Friendship's out the window. He's sort of unrelenting in his honesty and what you want in sport going forward to sort of sell what rugby is and how much you have to give.
I thought it was a fascinating weekend as a sort of a neutral and an observer. How much nostalgia there was around the fact that we are saying goodbye to some of England's greats in the last 10 years. And, you two are alongside in that. But when you put Courtney saying goodbye at Northampton alongside Owen saying goodbye, and the way that Northampton, after 12 years of bitter rivalry, certainly 10 years, and there have been some proper ding-dongs between Saints and Sarries over that time, the way that Saints said, do you know what, pat on the back and well done and good luck to you. Mako and Billy moving alongside. It was funny because we did the show last week, Tins, where off the back of Jack Willis being the standout bat rower in the Champions Cup final, playing the Ireland bat row off the park, suddenly you're saying, you've got to be able to pick players overseas. Watching Mako, Billy, Owen, Courtney moving to France, I was a bit like, actually, that's a lot of English rugby IP that we're saying goodbye to, where actually if you kept them in, there's so much that they could offer to the younger kids coming through. I just thought it was an interest, basically sort of changed my tune in the space of 2 days. But having said, what an amazing impact Courtney's had, can we just touch on particularly the three Sarries as well? Mako, Billy, and Owen?
I'd have thought that. I wonder if the RFU even think that bigger picture, i.e. it's so important for like the next generation of players to keep those sorts of guys playing in England. I wonder if they're even on that, because you're right, they're legends of the game. They've got all that experience from playing with Faz.
I mean, they may yet come back into it, but it would be a shame if they don't.
Yeah. And that's a loss, because from playing with Faz, and even Mako's very, very intelligent player, but like, I've learned more from Faz than any coach, really, playing alongside him, how he gets hold of his attack and defence and leads the game plan, and how he's always just been so clued up and ahead of the game. And so, like, you see him talking with Mark McCall, those two are just at it together, really. And then for the best players you ever played with, we're talking like with Billy and Mako, they were just like, they've been unbelievable players, so talented. I think I went on a tour with, my first tour to Argentina in 2013 was with Billy, and like, so
I was on that.
Yeah,
I remember,
were on that, and like he was a freak. Like, I think the rule was, what school did he go to? He went to a posh, Harrow, but like the school teachers from other schools he wasn't allowed to play for them because he was 150 key. He was the heaviest player. He was at Wasps, wasn't he? He was the heaviest player in the Premiership at 18.
Yeah.
Physically, he's changed so much. So he was massive
changed a lot,
back then.
but like
he was so unfit, but just absolutely devastating.
Mako,
with the ball.
I played 20s with Mako, and his ability as a handling forward and offload and footwork, and like, these guys are so good. That those three and Courtney, they are up there with the best players I've ever played with. And yeah, it is sad for them to go, and it's a loss for English rugby, those teams, and also the players who get, even me, up until my last time with those guys, you're just learning off them all the time.
I'd say as an out and out, like, everyone talks about what a competitor and how competitive people are. Owen is probably the most competitive bloke I've ever met. Like,
off the rugby pitch as well as on it.
Well, I'm just talking strictly rugby.
Oh, okay.
Like, in a rugby context, he just lives and breathes it. Like, and I remember playing for England and working really hard and grafting, and I got up to chase a kick, and I thought I was chasing hard. I was running hard, and he overtook me so fast to chase it, and was like just racing ahead. And we always talk about in rugby, like, staying connected and not leaving anyone behind. And he was running past me, just shouting at me to hurry up. And I'm just like, I thought I was working hard, and I thought I was setting a certain like level of work rate and effort. And just like, he was about 20 at the time. He would have been pretty young. I don't know how old he would have been.
That's him and
yeah, 40's probably close.
For those two to speak how they speak, and they've only got better at it. Like, it's difficult to explain it, but they speak so well.
And Owen was literally doing that when he first came on the scene at like 20 years old.
There to get hold of it as a 20-year-old, and like, to get hold of a team with people 5-10 years older than you, and to talk the way they do, and lead in meetings, and lead on the pitch, and talk, and lead and coach and guide the way they do.
And to bollock senior players and forwards and people that you would think they've got no place doing it to, but it's their
very
instinct.
famous quote of him in the 2013 Lions, wasn't it? Where O'Connell, they played against you and the Barbars in Hong Kong, I think it was, and O'Connell after the match goes, "Guys, we've been bollocked by the youngest player in the squad, age 20 or whatever it was. I think it was Stuart Hogwarts."
To have Paul O'Connell basically revving the rest of the team up, saying, "Don't let this young lad basically boss us about."
We shouldn't forget Manu as well, who's off the Bayonne,
obviously.
And it's farewell for. I mean, almost a player who England have fixated on. Is that fair? Fixated on.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, it was always
when's he back? When he was injured, when's he back?
Midfield has always been.
When's he there?
Midfield always gets tricky.
There's a Manu-shaped hole in it whenever you stop there. That's why.
And it's. When someone's missing that someone always wants to pick. I mean, it's horrible for whether it be Luther, whether it be Slady, all those people who sit around. It's like, who's playing with Manu? And Manu, well, Manu's injured. We can't do anything about it. He's missed out on a lot of international rugby, but you can't take anything away from what he is as a phenom. And what you don't see as well, he does a lot of work rate. I always remember GPS stats of him. We were like, where do you go in a game? Because she's like covering a ridiculous amount of yardage. But yeah, I mean, physical, and I just feel that he never really got to have a run at it and improve. Because you look at someone like Marnona, who is raw, very and where he got because he was allowed to play every week, which the Premiership doesn't really allow. It's saps. So if you get injury prone, it's very hard to run games together because you're just pushed into the red all the time. Whereas where he could have grown to as a player and been even better than what he is as a player. But he'll be missed because he's a character as well.
Yeah.
Little
playing against Manu for the first time as well. He must have been about 18 when he first came on the scene, wasn't he, for Leicester?
Frightening.
Yeah, honestly. Obviously, he carried I didn't know anything about him really, but he carried the Tuilagi name, so he's going to be fairly
sort of know what you're getting.
He's going to have a degree of power and strength about him. But he was about 18, so wasn't intimidated. But you're just like, right. And I remember trying to get my first shot on him. I remember it being a left shoulder tackle on an outside break. And he wasn't running at me and trying to run me over. He was trying to run away. I've never felt someone hit me so hard whilst running away from me. So he's running away and I'm like trying to get at him and he still hit me hard. I felt my shoulder nearly came out of the socket. I was hanging on to him. And bearing in mind, I wouldn't have been in my prime, but I'd have been sort of early 20s and established. And he was about 18 playing probably his first game. I'm thinking,
he's another one. He's another one. Like, so
imagine if he stayed fit.
Yeah, but I'm thinking back now. Like 2012, I got called up to a South Africa tour. So Chief's a year younger than me, so he would have been 21, and he was called Chief at 21, sat at the back of the bus, like 21 years old. His nickname's been Chief the whole time because he's literally the Chief. And then I think from then to the last
World
Cup.
What were you at 21?
But no, I remember Marla got me up to sing on the bus. And they were like, who the fuck's this kid? No cap. They were lobbing bottles at me. That was me at 22 and Chief at the back. But no, then you have Chief at this World Cup, and we had a social, and it ended up becoming take the back seat of the bus.
Oh, jeez.
And Chief stood up, and like it was getting quite boisterous. But Genji won't like me saying this, but Genji tried his hardest, and Manu just. Yeah, Manu he didn't get past Manu.
That'd make a good documentary. That'd be good for the documentary.
We had a lot of back row.
That's a Tyson Logan Paul situation. Let's get that on. Let's get that on pay-per-view.
A lot of back row on that. It was a big camp. It was a big squad still. A lot of back row fighting for spots, and they went for it a bit, and they were filling each other in. But then obviously Chief stood up, and it was frightening watching him. Just prevent Genji from moving. Operate. That's all it. But like, yeah, it's
there's no disgrace in that.
It's madness, isn't it? Like you talk with those names now, like Billy, Mako, Faz, Courtney, Manu. It really is a changing.
Yeah. It's a new generation coming through, and they will, but it is definitely,
and that's perfectly natural as well. But it is, you got to take a moment to think, bloody hell, what a great set! Like there's amazing players there.
Yeah. Can I just ask both of you, having played with him, just
which one
about Owen? The question, because the tributes to Owen are just, and they are forthcoming across the board. How much do you think the last 6 months, and particularly off the back of the World Cup, where he was booed by his own fans and said what he said off the back of it, to where he is now? And it was a really nice interview at the end of the game. I
wish I'd seen that. I didn't see his interview.
He was quite nostalgic, I think, a bit misty-eyed.
Well, he said that, didn't he? He said, I thought more about my...
Yeah.
13 years or whatever it is at Saracens more in the last week than I have.
But how much has his treatment in the last 6 months held a mirror up to English rugby, English fans, rugby fans in general?
Well, I don't want to speak for Owen, but if it's got to Owen, then it can get to anybody, because I thought he would have been absolutely invincible and impervious to any of that. I wouldn't have thought that would have even, I thought he'd have such thick skin, competitor, as I said, and just so focused on the task. He's pretty anti-media at the best of times. I'd have just thought he'd have almost just shrugged it all off. So if it's got under his skin enough to upset him and to cause an issue, then yeah, that's whether it's the rugby media, the fan, but whatever it is, the public need to have a hard look at themselves, because if they, for it to affect Owen, it's got to be serious.
Yeah. We said this during the Rugby World Cup and just after it. It's gone beyond. It's now. I don't think it has got to Owen. I think it's got to the family, and when Faz has to, do. When Faz Senior is doing an interview for Ireland, and he has to start with, well, let me start with the fact that I think my treatment of my son's a joke. Yeah. It has gone too far.
Has it come back from that? And my point is, I sort of wonder whether there has been a change off the back of the World Cup because of the treatment and the ovation he received at Franklin's Gardens.
Well, I think both, and the fact that he stepped away. He made that choice to step away from England, so the noise has gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then it makes it,
now he's treated as the legend that everyone should know
that whole circus has gone. It's just back to Owen Farrell, the rugby player. He will feel that it was off the back of it, he'll go, it's the right decision, because now he still plays, still influences the game on the weekend, still drives all those standards, and he will do when he goes to Racing. But he does it whilst he's enjoying life more. I mean, I don't know what loving life looks like to Owen Farrell. I know it looks like
his barbecue. He has like his barbecuing. He likes his coffee. He likes his golf. Loves his family.
Do you reckon I can get him on the golf course? Or do you reckon he's going to shut me down?
I reckon you've got a bit of work to do.
I can get him on the golf course.
No. I'm going to use you.
Not if he's playing, you can't.
Maybe not so much.
Shall we move on to Bath? I mean, they were bottom of the log in 2022. Van Graan comes in. They are, I think I'm right to say, they feel they're ahead of where they should be in terms of their sort of regeneration. But I mean, how deserving are they of a place in the Premiership final?
I think they are. I think. Well, how many bonus points did they get this year? That's basically what got them into second, right? Was that the amount? So they are exciting to watch. We know what Finn Russell is, but he's really been the connecting piece between that forward pack and the backs to make them all tick. I think there are other players within that who play a massive role. Ollie Lawrence is one. Obviously, in the pack, I thought that Dunn was fantastic.
He's so
on the
good,
weekend.
Dunn, for them.
So good.
Ben Spencer.
Dunn's proper like homegrown player, and he
Spencer played well. All the pieces are sort of coming together. Plus, their detail in some of the strike moves that they do and how they do it and living it on the edge. Northampton's defence needs to be on, or you can get picked apart. And there are quality players throughout that team.
Finn's goal kicking as well was
bang on. So I think it'll be. I'm happy because last week we called this would be the final we'd want, first and second. Playing the best brand of rugby, both of them. Yeah. And I think just as a complete innocent bystander, even though I do probably have my foot in a Bath camp from previous playing history. I just hope they both turn up and we have a humdinger, because I think we have had that in whatever rugby you've watched over the last month, the games haven't let you down. No. I think they've been incredible.
The players have delivered, which we keep talking about. Talk to me about facing a Finn Russell team.
The way Bath play is, I was at the game at the weekend. It seems very controlled and set piece and box kicking, and then they're just waiting for that transition moment, that opportunity where they break you down or you make a mistake, and that's when Finn comes alive. So there's that to worry about, those transition moments. And then also I noticed like Bath do look good when they get into the opposition 22. Their pack's big. They've got big guys coming off the bench. It just looks like they're going to score when they get into that 22. And with Finn kicking well. So discipline, that's where Sale and Sarries probably let themselves down big time at the weekend. So many penalties. If Saints have been good discipline-wise, but if they give penalties away, you're in your 22, that they've got a big pack. And Finn's kicking well, so that's probably the risk or the threat presenting Saints. But I agree with Tins, the best version of Saints versus the best version of Bath. Saints should win.
How are you actually as a Bath? Complete
do you know,
Norse.
it's funny. I think my Norse factor 10.
I know it wasn't 1996, 97.
But that was the thing that I had. It's been a long time between drinks for Bath fans. I remember your mob losing to Wasps in, I think, probably the worst Premiership final.
Yeah, well,
in living memory.
We had 16 men on the field because Trevor threw every line out to us, and we still didn't win.
They were. I always remember Haas saying that Wasps were lining up in defence on their own line-out ball. It got that bad. That was a dark day. The Sam Burgess final of 2015, high hopes. They played some great rugby that year.
They did play great rugby that year.
They played really, and that was George,
that was
JJ, Carl Eastman,
Mike Ford,
Anthony
Watson.
They were a backline to die for that year.
That was a good backline.
And that didn't go very well. The stat that I found astonishing was that it's been 26 years. I think I was actually, that's when I would have been a season ticket holder at the Rec, but 26 years since Bath won the league is utterly astonishing. What that gives me, stop looking at your notes, because I wanted to give you the Continental Tyres Quiz question. You asked me about what it feels like to be a slightly faded, definitely sepia at the edges Bath fan. The Continental Tyres Quiz question of the week, and I reckon I could have got this, but I'm going to ask you, can you name 5 of the Bath team who won the league in 1996?
I reckon I can get 2.
Would you have been there?
No, I came the year after.
You came the year after, so you should be able to do it.
He definitely
can.
Can
you in the back line?
I could probably... Callard, Guska, Cat.
Yes, those are my 2.
Nickel at 9.
Addy Nickel at 9.
Addy
was at 13 in the final game of the season. Who would have been on the right wing?
It could have been Gagan.
Nope.
Ian wasn't there by then.
One of the greats, but you have to go into your Bath archives.
Swifty.
No, he'd retired. I think he retired by 95. Audley Lumsden.
I don't know.
Audley.
What a player he was back in the day. John Slightholme was on the wing. His son Ollie are now ripping it up for Northampton.
DG has got his kid playing at Bath.
Exactly. Tom de Glanville. It's extraordinary, isn't it? That is how far back in time it was.
Yeah.
I think it was almost black and white. That was a hell of a team. But what are your... genuinely, what are your memories of losing that final?
Yeah,
2004 you lost.
Yeah.
The memories of losing a final when you have put in...
and I think it was...
And that was also the day when you didn't fire any shots.
It was the frustration. No, it was the Sean Edwards defence that no one could deal with because it was so brand new. And we didn't really want the ball. We didn't want the ball because they were just hammering us behind. And obviously Stuart Abbott took that interception off Chris Malone, which then cost us the game. Yeah, it was a weird one because they couldn't win a line out. We couldn't create any attack ball, and it didn't matter what we did.
Yeah,
we just had no way of figuring out. Voicey was playing for us, and he normally
Tom Voice.
Yeah, and he could normally make a break from nothing. The eel, and we weren't getting anything. We couldn't. We just couldn't. They physically dominated us because of their new trade. Because this was when they were going through their new training thing with White. And Craig White, and they just timed everything for that end of season, didn't they? When
you do then lift the pot, which is what you did in 2014, do you feel a slightly different player when you become a Premiership champion as to?
I think in 2014 it just felt like we'd been on such a long journey. I'd arrived in 2010. That year, 2011, end of the season, we were on for a Premiership playoff, and we're in the final in Europe as well. We were in the Heineken Cup final against Leinster. So I remember at the start thinking this is pretty easy. First year at Northampton, things had gone pretty well. I'd made my international debut. We were in the finals, and all of a sudden, a month out from the season, or a few weeks out from the end of the season, I remember being at the end of season dinner talking about all that lay ahead, the potential Premiership finals and European final and what was possible. And we obviously lost the semi-final and then lost the final, and you got nothing to show for it. So it all builds towards that. And then we had similar season after season. We went to semi-finals, didn't make it, went to the final in 2013, which was the Dylan Hartley red card. So we'd been on sort of a 4 or 5 year journey with that core group of players and the coaching staff and everybody. And it just felt like it was our time. And on the back of that, I never really got a chance to celebrate because we had the semi-final, which was a pretty fateful night at Northampton against Leicester. The Amlin final, the Challenge Cup final the following week against Bath. Yeah.
Oh, well done.
And then so we did the double, the Amlin.
Good couple of weeks.
And then we beat Sarries in the final. And within 2 days, we're on the flight to New Zealand for the 2014.
Bloody hell. But
tour.
you couldn't play the first test match.
None
That's
of us,
it. So we played in Eden Park and then the whole team.
We took an extended squad, didn't we? We had to take loads of players because the Sarries and Saints players couldn't play the first test.
Yeah.
The boys did bloody well.
We nearly won, but then we
was
all
a couple of
basically
points,
got
wasn't it?
dropped
Yeah.
Because you
Comrades.
boys came out. Where did you finish in the league that season?
We must have been top 2 because it was home semi-final. I can't remember if it was top or second. I can't actually remember. We finished top the following year, 2015, and that's why I was kind of cautious this year with it being a Sarries semi-final. Is we actually lost to Sarries at home in 2015, having topped the league and played brilliantly all year and been the form team. We lost in the semi, and it's for nothing. So, I suppose it massively felt like a monkey off the back because we'd been the bridesmaids for years. We'd been to semi-finals and finals, and it felt like we were due one. And if to not get one over the line, having been there so many times, would have been, pretty cruel. So, but you've got to take that opportunity because next year will be completely different. You've got to start all over again, and teams change and momentum changes, and you've got a week to make it happen now.
Amazing. Should we go with who wins and why? Who do you want to win? Who will win? And why?
I want Saints to win. I think Saints will win. Why is that? It's because they've just been the best team this year.
It's interesting for me. I noticed this in myself. As a player, I never thought like this, but as a fan, I've begun sort of worrying more and potential scenarios and things going wrong. I never thought like that as a player. I was always like strictly task focus and unalterable belief in what I was doing and what the team was doing. It is Saints to lose. I think they are the form team. I think they've got the experience in that camp. They've developed nicely, but all these positive things we've been saying about Saints, the whole podcast are the one potential problem because when it's all it doesn't count for anything in a final.
Yeah,
it just doesn't count for anything. And if Finn turns up and he's got his kicking boots on, and they get some things go their way, and like Jonny says, maybe discipline. In the modern game, a red card, an untimely injury, anything can just derail you. But I have got absolute confidence in the boys, but I'm certainly not celebrating too early. They've got to turn up on the day and perform.
Seismic.
I love both teams' back rows, by the way. Just like as a bit of a side note, you mentioned loads of players that are stepping up for Bath at the minute, but the Bath back row is basically an international back row or potential. You got, I think Ted Hill's phenomenal athlete.
He played really well. I didn't mention him.
Is he knocking on England's door?
I'm surprised he's not playing regularly for England, other than the fact that the back row is always so hotly contested, and there's loads of
Tom
options.
Curry's back
He
in the
is
picture
so
as well.
fast, by the way. Ted Hill. People don't actually realise he's probably the fastest player in the Premiership.
So
Shut up.
He is a joke quick. He's
shout out
like
to my
shocking quick.
In the last few years of my career, I worked with a guy called Eamon Hyland, who is the S&C coach at Northampton now, but he came from Worcester, having worked with Ted Hill, and he always spoke so highly of Ted. I mean, Eamon's one of the best in the game, and
he's unbelievable. He was at Gloucester with me.
Yeah. So, but Ted obviously he's tall, he's rangy, athletic, but unbelievable hands. He takes high balls, chases his own box kicks and catches them. And runs 60, 70 metres. Done that a couple of times against Northampton.
Did you see when he caught the high ball and then it was Hodge and Fairway both chasing him back and they couldn't catch him up with him away at Sandy. He's literally he's like international wing pace.
Yeah.
Oh,
Seriously.
are you being serious?
No, I'm being deadly serious. Like that. Yeah.
When it comes to speed,
Eddie used to chuck him on the wing.
Yeah.
Like when we played 12-a-side and something, he burnt me once. Like I was knackered, but like he
but he's been scrumming and mauling and everything. You've been having a cigar on the wing.
Just on the wing that day. Just to be clear, but no, he's international wing fast.
Wow.
Seriously.
But if you looked at that, as you say, you look at the back rows from whether it be Barbary, Underhill, Hill,
Bayliss. Well, Bayliss found himself he's been one of the standout players from in recent years, but he found himself on the bench at the weekend when you've got that luxury. And the same's true of Northampton, by the way. Like Northampton have got embarrassment of riches there as well. But
it's mad. But I would, if I sat completely independently, I think the best team in the league this year has been Northampton.
Yeah.
I think they as creative as Bath are, they can do the same, but I think their other nuts and bolts are better.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say Bath can't have that day in the sun quite easily, to be fair, if they both bring their A game. But I do think Northampton edge it. They are favourites. -4, I think they are. So which isn't much. So it says it's going to be a close game. But I sort of hope it's a little bit loose, and then we'll see where it goes. Everyone in Northampton will hope it's not that loose.
Well, firm track, Twickenham.
Big old pitch.
Suits both teams, throwing the ball around and moving it and running rugby. So
I don't think it's going to be
a hell of a final.
But we say that, finals generally are a bit more cagey affairs, but I don't think it'll be that boring.
Can I do what Woody did now and talk about the wingers for both teams? Because they're unbelievable wingers as well.
Yeah.
Slights and Freeman for Saints. Top try scorer and what a season Freeman's had.
I can't believe in a year how I would not. He's like one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
I wouldn't look at anyone else.
Yeah.
And we questioned, going into Italy, you're like, oh, is he ready?
Is that just a feeling of the confidence?
I think you forget
actual...
he's been in and around it for a while, and then it just and if you are at some point it just clicks. Do you know what I mean? Like he has been in and around it. Do you know what I mean? And then it's just landed now. And then for Bath, Focker's been unbelievable. And Will Muir as well.
Yeah.
I'd love to play. I think he's a brilliant player.
Talk us through his running style.
I noticed it again at the weekend watching it in the flesh, but it is horse-like.
It is horse, which is why it's called horse.
It is galloping, and he's hard to tackle.
The longest stride you'll ever see in the world.
Of all of them, and he's a Steve Borthwick player as well. I think he chases every kick. He is consistent. He's what a season he's had. So to see those wingers going at it this weekend's exciting. I reckon Saints are going to win well. I just got a feeling now.
Oh, that makes me nervous.
Sorry.
By 20, 30, 40,
no,
is that what we're saying, John?
That, but it's more. It's 10 plus.
Really?
Yeah, it is. I think
Why?
so. They're just better. They're good. They're very, very good. That's just my gut.
Well, there's a challenge to the Bath faithful. It's been a long time, as we said, since they've been to Twickenham.
I don't like that because you're just doing team talks with people.
I know, but it's just my gut feeling.
That'll be pinned up on the Bath changing room.
That's going up in a glass box.
I was
Farley House.
I was also wrong last weekend.
That'll be on the door on the way above the door on the way into the Bath changing room.
Jonny May
says this. I don't think they'd care.
I think they've probably got a few other things
to
worry about.
At least it came from you, not me.
Yeah.
Do you know, we've done some really good shows this year, actually, with big wigs in the final, the Gallagher Premiership final. So if you want to go and check out the one with Courtney Lawes, that was done just after England got back from the World Cup. Brilliant interview. He speaks so well on so many different topics. Finn Russell as well, we did around about Christmas time, I think it was. So forgive the Christmas jumpers, but really interesting on how he is desperate to win silverware and will be all in for Bath this weekend. Before we finish, a word on Rob Burrow, which sort of stopped us all in our tracks. A day everyone hoped would never come, but it has. And you did it. I've forgotten you did his show.
Yeah, I did his podcast
a few months ago.
7. Look, I think, rugby's got the history, unfortunately, with MND and from Doddy sort of really being the sounding board for how it can affect and how it can bring a rugby community together, and everything he did in championing the start of MND research and where he's taken it, and then Rob sort of joined that sort of pathway with him, and obviously Ed's there now as well. And Rob really had led it by a charge again, like Doddy, not letting one of the, if not the most horrible condition sort of get him down. He said he was going to live life, he was going to love it to the end, and his strength of character. I know that Kevin Sinfield, who is a legend within himself, what he's done and raising funds for his mate, for his little mate as he calls him, but then Rob to do it, and his wife Lindsay, who an absolute rock and a legend and funny in her own right. I know Rob obviously caused me to be in the papers a bit about the 1 pint Willie joke, so he got me in trouble, but I won't judge him on that, and he will be missed, because watching him as a rugby league player, obviously from Leeds, he was one of my favourite players for Leeds, and he summed up what rugby is. It doesn't matter how big you are, you've got to find a way to be able to deal with it, and he did it in his own way, and he will be sadly missed, and but hopefully him and Doddy are having a good laugh, having a run around with the ball up
in the
there.
Sky.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people will be touched. I'm sure you've all read the news, but obviously, please donate if you can. Ed Slater is fighting the good fight himself now.
Yes, it's difficult to talk about because it's very close to home. Like I didn't know Rob, but obviously Ed is a teammate of mine, and I try and see him when I can. I'm going to see him soon, but it's I don't really know what to say. It's pretty gut wrenching.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people with some amazing tributes for Rob Burrow, and a little legend who will be much missed. We're going to do a quick black eye as well, and I'm going to send it to Owen Farrell. I'm actually going to send him a case of gin this week because he has done. We're doing a book, I don't know how on earth we've ended up doing a good bad rugby book, but we're bringing out a good bad rugby book, which is the story of the shambles so far. And Owen has done, I think, the most perfect quote for the front of the book. So a thank you to him for that, but more importantly, on a remarkable career that finishes with a boatload of silverware and exactly the right amount of adulation as well. I mean, there may still be chapters still to be written in English rugby, but obviously he's off to Paris to Racing. So we're going to send a case of black eye to Owen.
Can you imagine if he goes to Paris and he comes back really French, he's wearing designer clothes, drives a Ferrari, turns Finn Russell.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
He goes and plays for Northampton. Wow. He'll be a gun for hire, that's for sure.
I reckon he comes back and plays rugby league.
Do you think
that's
he
a nice
does?
ending for him? Wigan.
Goes at Wigan.
That's a nice ending.
That would be a great story.
It's great. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Do you know that?
No, I'd just be great, wouldn't it?
No. Do you know that?
What are you doing?
It's a twitch. It's a twitch. Good luck, Owen. Enjoy the black eye. Enjoy the next chapter as well. What a Gallagher Premiership final it is going to be. The two best teams in the land. A full house at Twickenham for the first time in 9 years. Woody's been there and won it. Tins has been there and not.
Johnny's been nowhere near it.
Johnny's been nowhere near it. Good luck getting back to Newport this evening. Do send us a postcard from wherever you end up. We've been the good, the bad and the rugby with our friends at Continental Tyres. Stats and facts provided by Oval Insights. We're a folding pocket production. This episode was produced by Tom Edwards. Enjoy the big dance this weekend. Bye for now.